Grace and peace, everybody. We're back. This is going to be a one and done. So, what I mean by that, if you're not familiar with my style, this is going to be a shot once video, and then we're going to just upload it. So, we're going to take it with all its foibles, all its fumbles. Hopefully, there won't be too many of those because we've gotten pretty good at this. But I really want to talk about this Will and Jada Smith thing. And most of us have heard enough about it. We've talked a lot about it. But as I said in the thumbnail and in the title, I don't think Jada Pinkett Smith is as much the villain as we've made her out to be. She is wrong for a lot of the things that she's done, particularly in putting out their business, Will and her business out there to the world. Because as I've said before, a lot of what we know about Will and Jada Smith comes from Jada. If she didn't say anything, we would not know anything. There would be a lot less that we would know. However, Will has some problems here. And I want to give a shout out to the YouTuber Patrick CC. The link will be down in the description. He did a expose, a little short documentary on Will and Jada Smith, and he approached it and talked about topics I had heard no one talk about. I'm sure somebody probably did, but I had heard nobody talk about these topics particularly. So I just wanted to bring it up. I've brought in a couple clips from Patrick's video just to give us like a lay of the land. I cut out a lot of the stories, if you will. I moved those out, so you're definitely welcome, and encourage you to go check out his video. The link down in the description. But I do believe that there's a lot that we as Christians can glean from this Will and Jada Smith story. And I think it'd be good to just look at it. So we're going to pull this in real quick and we're going to get going. So let's go.
Will and Jada Pinkett Smith were long romanticized in Hollywood as the perfect couple. They proved that it's possible for two people to be incredibly successful A-list celebrities and raise a stable family who all love each other. We now know that was all a lie. The Smith family...
I think we knew that before, though. I think we knew that there were a lot of problems with Will and Jada Smith's, the projection of their marriage, of the family, whatnot. And we're going to jump into it quick, but I think we already kind of knew. Most people probably knew that there was something wrong.
Was an image carefully crafted to look like the perfect family while it was an utter mess on the inside, because we are going to dive deep and look at every detail that built up to one of the most catastrophic, confusing, and preventable marriages of all time. In 1994, Will Smith was married to his now ex-wife Cherie Zampino. They also had a 2-year-old son named Trey, but Will was spending a lot of time with actress Jada Pinkett despite having a wife and baby at home.
All right, so let's just go ahead right there. That's the first problem off the bat from the rip. And you're going to find out this was just a symptom of a long-running problem, but let's go.
To be Will's girlfriend, Lisa, and came close to booking the role, but didn't because producers thought Jada looked too short when sharing the screen with Will. Will tried to approach Jada to console her. She shrugged him off, but he says it was love at first sight. The two say Will did not have an affair, but Will was head over heels for another woman that wasn't his wife. We sat
Problem much? Come on, man.
Down at the baked potato and talked. There was a really unique, beautiful power. We had that moment and we connected, but I was married. Will's unfaithful tendencies are not that surprising considering he was a 6'2", 25-year-old movie star, television star, and rap star. But it was an early sign that maybe marriage wasn't for him.
Okay. And you're going to see this in a second. I don't think Will has a clear understanding. Well, I'm pretty confident Will Smith does not have a clear understanding of what marriage is, who instituted it, what's it for, what's the purpose of it, any of that stuff, because you're going to see it in a moment. It becomes demonstrably clear. Will doesn't understand what marriage is, but let us continue.
Cherie filed for a divorce, rightfully. She called herself my placeholder wife. She said that she just had to be there to hold the position of wife in Will Smith's perfect life. The most important takeaway from this is Will's willingness to remain in a marriage that he was not emotionally invested in for the sake of maintaining his image to the world.
Okay, so that's why that is almost like the thesis statement of this entire thing, especially what we've seen out there in the world in the last 2 months or so as it relates to Will and Jada Smith. He will stay in a marriage well past its expiration date simply because he wants to curate a perfect picture, even though the picture is clearly not perfect. but he wants to curate that perfect image. But let's go.
Jada obviously was interested in Will, but her own morality tried to convince him to fight for his family and make things work, saying, I literally walked right out from signing the divorce papers and I called Jada. I said, hey Jada, what's up? It's Will. She said, hey, how you doing? I said, good. Are you seeing anybody? She said, no. And I said, cool, you're seeing me now. Jada went along with it because her life was about to fall apart. Jada successfully made it out of the struggle, but she was still not happy.
My career is popping.
I do want to point out something. You're going to hear a lot about the word happy as it relates to Jada. It's used a lot in here, and I cut it out a couple of times, so you're going to see it quite a bit. I just think that's something to consider and to think about. Are we pursuing happiness? Are we pursuing holiness? Are we pursuing oneness? Are we pursuing wholeness with our spouses? But let us continue.
I got money. I'm hot.
People are pursuing you.
I got every dude everywhere wanting, you know what I mean? Like, I can have anybody I want. Why am I not happy?
This is when Will came along, and she latched onto him hoping that he would make her happy again. We fit together so naturally, and our energies combined exponentially in a way that felt like old friends more than new lovers. We had an unspoken language, and everything we focused on flourished. This romantic, adventurous fling would come to a screeching halt whenever the marriage conversation popped up.
Okay, now here it comes. So remember, I'm saying Jada's not really the villain like we painted her out to be, and he's going to explain it pretty clearly. Let him explain.
Jada didn't believe in a conventional marriage and despised a traditional ceremony. She also had questions about the viability of monogamy as a framework for a successful long-term relationship. Despite the obvious warning sign of trying to settle down with a woman who does not want to, Will did not let that stop him. From an early point in their relationship,
again, like, she didn't want to be married. And you're going to hear it. She's going to make it very, very clear. She didn't want to be married. She doesn't even like the idea of marriage.
Their suitability was questionable at best, but now Jada was pregnant, and Will's determination to get married overpowered Jada's personal beliefs. I never wanted to get married, Jada revealed, but my mother was like, you have to get married. She's so old school, and Will wanted a family, so I said, alright, maybe it's something I should do. Even Jada's grandmother called Will and cried her freaking eyes out, so then I had to have a wedding, and that was infuriating. Couple married on New Year's Day in 1997 in a private ceremony in Baltimore, Maryland. However, everyone at the ceremony seemed ecstatic, besides the bride.
And I was so upset that I had to have a wedding. I was so pissed. I went crying down the freaking aisle.
Oh, getting married.
Married. Cried the whole way.
And I was
down
like,
the aisle.
I was like,
And Will's like, hey! I'm like,
she'll be all right, don't worry.
This would be the first of many compromises Jada would make over the years that painfully negated her own values. She had boarded the Will train, and there was no way off. But why was she so against the idea of...
All right, so I just want to give you that real quick. So we see here, being married was Will's idea. And he's going to explain why it was his idea, because this is the second pillar of my Jada is not really the villain that we really painted her out to be. Wait till he explains why he wanted to get married.
Marriage.
I just never really agreed with the construct.
Exactly.
I just don't agree with it. I never have. I still don't.
Yeah.
Till death do us part is real for me. It's just all of the rules and
It's
all
like
of the
you're supposed to do
ideas.
this
Right.
What do
as
you
a
know,
wife.
Willow?
You
What are you
know,
talking
yes,
Yeah,
as a husband, you're supposed to do this.
Instead of
Right.
really
And what you
just
can't
do.
And what you can't do,
exactly,
right, absolutely.
because of this title, wife is a
The
very
defi- the-
difficult.
the accepted conventional
conventional definition
of a
of
wife.
wife.
Right.
The paradigm.
In the
Yes.
paradigm, I'm not that.
Okay. I wanted to just pause right there because there was a lot to take in. If you rewind the tape and just listen, they use a lot of mumbo jumbo terms that really don't make sense, and I think that's part of the problem is they really don't have an understanding of the purpose and the sanctity of marriage. I do shout out to Jada that she wanted Will to fight for his first marriage, but Will was already done with that. I mean, that's sad to hear because, that's a woman that didn't have a child, that didn't have a father in the home. And then to see your dad on screen and all over the place, that's kind of wild. However, they don't have a full understanding, a full orbed understanding of marriage. And Jada pretty much makes that very clear. But let's let Will finish up.
Then Will goes on to say why he wanted a marriage so badly.
I don't know if I've ever said this. You know how I'm a scientist, so everything is science for me.
Yes.
I read something when we first got together that the most successful men in history have been married.
Right.
I knew that I would squander my life if I was running around.
Yeah.
Okay.
The way my mind works, I can only excel for a woman. My first.
Okay, and there's a clip of him expounding on this a little bit more. So here's this clip. But notice Will wanted to be married only because he wanted to be successful and felt that he would be successful if he had a wife, not if he was just being single or whatever like that. But listen to this clip.
Girlfriend cheated on me. Oh. And I remember making a decision that nobody would ever cheat on me again.
When the woman who does not basic.
All right, so Will said that his high school girlfriend cheated on him in high school, and he decided that no woman would ever cheat on him again. And later on, he goes on to say that that's why he wanted to become the most decorated actor in history. Pretty wild. Okay, let's go.
Fundamentals of a marriage gets coerced to marry a man who only wants a wife so he doesn't derail his perfect career, what could possibly go wrong?
Nothing.
The couple welcomed their son, Jaden Christopher Sire Smith, on July 8th, 1998, and their daughter, Willow Camille Rain Smith, on October 31st, 2000. The perfect couple now has the perfect family, but Will's perfect family needed the perfect home, a 256-acre mansion that Will desired but Jada despised. She expressed how it was too big, too expensive, and too much space. Nothing good comes from spending your hard-earned money on a family home that your wife doesn't want. You are putting a down payment on discord, and for years you will be paying off a mortgage of misery, or worse. Will became widely
How appropriate was that? Talk about wow. That was serendipitous.
Regarded as a highly skilled and versatile actor, his acting abilities earned him critical acclaim, numerous awards and nominations, and a massive fan following all over the world. By the 2010s, Will had solidified his name as one of the greatest actors of his generation. Jada and Will were seen as a beacon of real love in this chaotic industry, yet Will's career outshined hers so much that she was starting to be known as just Will Smith's wife, which is kind of what he wanted.
Externally, our family was winning. And there was a period, mommy woke up and cried 45 days straight. I started keeping a diary.
You missed some days.
It was every morning. I think that's the worst I've ever felt in our marriage. I was failing miserably. But on the outside, I was winning.
But all of the money, fame, and success came at the cost of deteriorating their relationship. In his memoir, Will detailed he and Jada's greatest argument that stemmed from a list of priorities each wrote independently.
Okay, I'm gonna stop right here because the list is pretty wild. But and they never really get into it, and I don't understand why Jada. Because there's gonna be a situation where her mother at the red table talks to Jada like, you know, why do you feel like you were ungrateful? And they never really explain why was Jada so unhappy. Like, what was she looking for? They never really explained that. But they've made this commitment to never get divorced, so that's why they're gonna stay together. But they're not actually pursuing wholeness or pursuing unity between one another. They're just living their lives. Okay, let's go.
Then shared with one another.
This is
in order
wild.
of importance, Jada's priorities were the children, Will, herself, and extended family and friends.
Might I go and say that that's a pretty common list. Most people might have the husband above the kids, but that's a pretty common list. That makes sense.
On the other hand, Will wrote himself, Jada, the children, and his career. Jada was devastated to read Will prioritize himself over Trey, Jaden, and Willow. He explained that if he doesn't take care of himself first, he couldn't provide for the rest of his family. Jada stuck around in this marriage that she never wanted in the first place so long because of her kids and the pressure to maintain the image created around the Smiths. On one hand, I wanted a career. I'd worked so hard and yet there I was, strung out on having to make decisions based on that, and it was too difficult. Should I be a star? Should I be a mom? A wife? You can't be all three. Something has to give.
Did you ever feel like Jada was ungrateful?
Hell yeah.
Look at everything that I've done for you.
Yes. That was another thing.
Okay, it cracks me up that the daughter keeps commenting. Like, how are you commenting? I mean, it seems like their kids are adjusted, if you will, but it just seems comical. Like, why are you talking like this and talking to the dad?
Grateful.
But that was the other thing, because there were times I felt ungrateful. Because I was like, look at your life.
Yes.
How could you be so unhappy? I used to think I was crazy.
This unstable relationship could not last, and in 2011, they reached a tipping point. But the straw that finally broke the camel's back was during Jada's 40th birthday celebration. Will had started prepping for Jada's 40th 3 years earlier. He invited hundreds of guests, friends, family, other celebrities to a weekend-long celebration in Santa Fe, New Mexico. Mary J. Blige performed, and the guests were in awe of this beautiful celebration Will curated. But the 3-year-long surprise was a documentary Will made tracing Jada's family lineage back to slavery. Will resurfaced unseen pictures, found family members, and found a recording of her late beloved grandmother that she and her family had never heard before. These were very deep and personal messages from her grandmother that he broadcasted to hundreds of people at the party. The entire place is in tears. Her family, my family, everybody, all except Jada. She sat motionless, refusing to make eye contact with me. The video ends, family and friends erupt in a standing ovation. That night, Jada demanded that they cancel the rest of the weekend. Will said no, and she finally erupted.
I'll cancel tomorrow. She was like, it's my birthday. Right? And she's told me that the party was the most ridiculous display of my ego. Crushed.
That daughter keeps
right?
talking. It's cracking me up.
And to this day, I know I was crushed because it was true. It wasn't a party for her.
Oh, wow.
And when she called me on that, that's when I snapped. And
Years later, Will admits he wasn't doing this gesture for Jada, but at the time he couldn't understand what he may have done wrong. When they returned to Los Angeles, they separated, and he said to Jada, "I retire from trying to make you happy. You are free. You need to go make yourself happy and prove to me that it's even possible. But I quit. You go do you, and I'ma go do me."
All right. So I just want to pause for a second there. Still, the reason I said I don't think Jada was the villain she's the reluctant villain, if you will. As I said earlier, she's done a lot wrong in this scenario. However, Will wanted props, not really a family. And that's really hard to believe. Like, you would want somebody to be like an ornament to your career, or children to be augmentation to your testament to your success. That's crazy. But that's what I really believe Will wanted. And that's why I think Will is just as much the villain in this story as Jada is, or Jada has been perceived to be. But let's get it done. Let's go.
They didn't file for divorce, and they didn't announce to the public that they were separated, which would cause confusion for years to come. According to Will, he and Jada didn't reunite romantically until November 2016, which would mean that they were technically separated from September 2011 to November 2016. Will and actress Margot Robbie began working together on the set of the crime drama Focus. Insiders claimed Will and Margot were getting close on set. According to the source, Will appeared as if he was not married. The public assumed he and Margot were either having an affair or that he and Jada were in an open relationship. We now know that he and Jada were separated. And in 2013, Jada responded to the rumors, almost letting the cat out of the bag. He can do whatever he wants because at the end of the day, Will is his own man. This statement further confused the public, who took it as confirmation of an open relationship. Jada later rewrote her statement on Facebook saying, "Here's how I will change my statement. Will and I both can do whatever we want because we trust each other to do so. This does not mean we have an open relationship. This means we have a grown one." Margot addressed the rumors on Twitter. "There's absolutely no truth to the ridiculous rumor in Star Mag. It's disappointing that goofing around on set could be taken so out of context. Their relationship remained estranged behind the scenes, but in public, Will and Jada continued showing up to red carpet events and award shows together hand in hand. To make things even more confusing, she said this on Queen Latifah's show in 2014.
Jada would come into my trailer and tell me, "Girl, She was in love.
Yes. And
With
still
Will.
am.
And still are.
Yeah.
Followed up by an interview on Howard Stern a few months later where she said,
Here's what's real. I'm not the kind of woman that believes that a man is not going to be attracted to other women. I'm just not that girl. It's just not realistic, right?
Right.
And just because your man is attracted to another woman does not mean he doesn't love you.
Right.
He does. That's not what
But
it
he
means,
can't-
and it doesn't mean he's gonna act on it.
by this point, Jada had said enough to make everyone believe that they were in an open relationship, which would get even more complicated when Jada got into her infamous entanglement with August Alsina. But before we jump into that, let me just clarify a few things. It's important to understand that Will says they separated in 2011 after Jada's 40th birthday disaster, but Jada says they separated in 2016. That's a huge difference, and we don't really know why they say two different things. Now in 2018, Jada and Will started sharing a lot of their life on social media. Will started posting vlogs on YouTube, and Jada started hosting a podcast/talk show on Facebook called Red Table Talk, alongside her mother and daughter. Jada gave her hundreds of thousands of viewers insight into her life and relationship, and it was around this time when people started to realize the Jada and Will love was mostly a facade. More specifically, in episodes 11 and 12, which featured Will, accumulated tens of millions of views. These episodes covered a lot of the information that you learned in this video. People were amazed at their open and honest communication, but they were talking about their relationship like they were divorced, and they were also not wearing wedding rings. They even say that they aren't married anymore. They claim they are life partners and have redefined the definition of husband and wife to fit their unique.
And this is one of the other issues, is that rather than say they're married, they came up with life partners. Rather than husband and wife, they come up with new terms and new definitions, which mean nothing. At the end of the day, you're married, your husband, your wife, work it out, play through the tough spots, and let's keep it going. But this is what they do.
Union. June 21st, 2020 was another episode where Will and Jada sat down and did another extremely deep dive into their marriage. They laughed, cried, and seemed like the most normal version of themselves. And if you're confused, feeling, are they married, are they separated, are they divorced? That's literally how everyone else felt. But just 8 days after Will and Jada's beautiful one-on-one discussion, August Alsina shared news about his relationship with Jada that would shock the world.
I actually sat down with Will and had a conversation. He gave me his blessing. And I totally gave myself to that relationship for years of my life. And I truly and really, really deeply loved and have a ton of love for her.
August admits that not only did he fall head over heels into deep love with Jada, but he even had a conversation with Will about it and received his approval. When he met the Smith family, through befriending Jaden, August was at a very low point in his life. Jada seemingly took her friend's son under her wing with the intention of helping him heal, but it progressed into a full-blown relationship. They also mentioned that August came into their life when Jada and Will were broken up.
I really felt like we could be over.
We were over.
And then what did you do, Jada?
Okay, I just want to point out something. And I never noticed this before. In the August Alsina video, there's a lot of cuts in there. I didn't realize that. And I'm not that invested in it to go back and watch it and try to see if there's another version of that story. But it just seems like it's cut a lot. I didn't realize that when I first saw it, like when most of you all saw it, like, yo, there's a lot of edits in that thing. And I just wonder, I don't know, it's just kind of interesting to me. Why are there so many edits in that joint? But let's get this done. Let's go.
I think you need to say clearly what happened.
As far as what?
You and I decided we were going to take our space, and what happened?
Yeah, and then I got into an entanglement with August. That's what I said.
An entanglement?
Yes.
But see, even in that, they're not using proper terms. Entanglement, what is that? That's an affair. If you just call it what it is, then you can deal with it appropriately. Adultery, that's what it is. All this frou-frou trying to put lipstick on a pig is useless. It's an affair.
Yes.
A relationship.
Yes, it was a relationship.
Based on Will's tone and his demand for Jada to admit it was a relationship, it seemed like he was still upset even though this had happened more than 4 years ago.
Because I wasn't sure I was ever going to speak to you again.
I know.
Yeah, like the fact that I'm speaking to you again is a miracle.
I I would agree.
No, but it ain't for the weak at heart.
There seemed to be a little bit more pain in Will's voice. Will's obvious distress became a huge meme online because, again, nobody knew the long history of their complicated life partnership. All they thought was Will Smith's wife just got him on a podcast to tell him how much she loved another man. But there's a really interesting part of this interview that most people missed.
I'm gonna get you back first, and then...
You gonna get me back. I think you got me back. I think we're good on that, okay?
Okay, that's probably true.
Will jokingly said he is gonna get her back, but then immediately admits that he probably had this coming after all these years of Jada putting up with him. What he did not realize is that he would not stop being an embarrassment after this moment. It was only going to get worse. On March 27th, 2022, Will and Jada attended the 2022 Oscars together.
All right, so we know what happens at the Oscars, but yeah, I don't think now here. I think at this point, I think this is where Jada's villain arc starts really in earnest. So I do agree. Starting here, even with the August Alsina thing, I do think that's where most of us start seeing Jada as a villain. But I don't think. As I said before, I think in the beginning, she didn't want to be in this marriage. I don't think she wanted to be in this relationship. Well, no, she said it. So it's not even me. She said it. And because of that, that's why I really believe that she's not the villain that we really wanted. We paint her out to be. Now she's going to become it, though. Don't worry about that. She's done her own wrong. But let's go.
That night, Will was nominated for Best Actor for his portrayal of Richard Williams in the biographical sports drama King Richard. However, things took a strange turn after Chris Rock made a joke about Jada, who has spoken openly about having alopecia, a hair loss condition. Chris compared Jada to Lieutenant Jordan O'Neill, the star of G.I. Jane, notorious for her short buzz-cut hairstyle. Will initially laughed, but then made it clear he didn't appreciate the joke as he stormed on stage and smacked Chris before telling him to keep my wife's name out of his mouth. From the silence of the audience and the look on Chris's face, it seems like the reaction was 100% unscripted. Despite this encounter, Chris didn't press charges, and Will won his first Oscar for Best Actor on the night of controversy. However, even Jada was confused by what Will did and said because she is not his wife.
I had no idea that was none whatsoever. And I came as family. I actually didn't go to the Oscars as Will's wife. And I know for people that's weird, but what was going on behind the scenes, Will and I had been like, we weren't living as husband and wife since 2016. I was happy he asked me to go.
The slap was clearly pent-up anger from Will over the past 25 years. Jada never wanted marriage. Will wanted it, and everything went his way for the first 15 years. He got her everything he thought she wanted, the house, the fame, the money, the kids, but Will still didn't feel like she loved him. But Will was not going to get divorced again, as he saw his first divorce as his life's biggest failure.
In my adult life.
Yeah.
Divorce was the ultimate failure for me.
Yeah.
I've been hurt a lot in my adult life, but I don't think anything touches the failure of getting divorced.
He became desperate to make this marriage work, even though Jada never wanted it. Then once the 40th birthday situation didn't work, where he attempted to win back Jada's love, he said, okay, I've tried everything and you still are not happy. We're done, go be happy. But when she did that with August, he didn't like that either. And it seems like since then, Will has just been coping with this life partnership confusing half-open marriage thing, as he goes on podcasts talking about how marriage is a spiritual journey, and writing in his memoir about how his ego destroyed them and Jada was just riding the Will train, which was fine until he got embarrassed in front of the whole world with the entanglement.
And I think that that's part of the problem, is that he did not have a clear understanding of what marriage is, why God instituted marriage, what is the role of a husband and the role of a wife and support staff and supporting cast, if you will. And he was only doing this because, as he said earlier, every successful man is married, and he wanted to be married to be successful. Not he wanted to be a success at being married.
Situation and reading everyone calling him a CUCK. Maybe the slap was him trying to, yet again, win back her love. Show Jada that he is her protector. No man is going to talk about my wife like that, only for her to say, wife? I'm not your wife since 2016, and I never wanted to marry you. But today, Jada just keeps dumping salt on Will's wounds. She just released her memoir, Worthy, which spends a ton of time confessing a deep love and admiration for her late friend, Tupac Shakur. By the early 90s, Tupac left the East Coast for the West Coast with aspirations of becoming a rapper. As his career was beginning to take off, so was Jada's. We were always trying to look for opportunities to work together. It was because of Pac that I got Menace to Society, and we were always looking out for each other like that. Now, Jada says her and Tupac were never romantically involved, but the way she talks about him makes people think otherwise.
We definitely had this beautiful closeness that was really intimate, but never physically intimate.
But it's also important to recognize that Jada has been talking about Tupac for years.
That was a huge loss in my life.
Absolutely. Yeah.
Because he was one of those people that I expected to be here. And my upset is more anger.
A lot of people try to negate her relationship with Tupac, but it was real. And even people who were close to Pac say that he felt a strong love for her as well.
Jada Pinkett. Jada's my heart. You know what I mean? She will be my friend for my whole life. She can have my one heart, my liver, my lungs, my kidneys, my blood, marrow, all of that.
But if you compare the way she talks about Will versus Pac, it starts to seem like Tupac truly captured her heart and Will could never live up to those standards.
What made you fall in love with him?
I would say Will came at a time in my life where he saw beauty in me that I didn't see in myself at the time. And, you know, he saw a diamond in the rough and he kind of picked me up and blew off all the dust and said, I'm telling you, I'm gonna make you shine, girl.
Well, you certainly did, looking at that rock.
Right, exactly. And I was going through a really rough time. And, you know, he created a safe space for me.
Nothing about Will's personality got her to fall in love with him. It was the stability he provided. But even Will admits that he was resentful of Jada's love for Tupac.
Were you ever jealous of the love Jada had for Tupac?
Yeah.
I thought you were gonna say no.
Oh my God, that dude. And you know, and that was in the early days. She just loved him like he was the image of perfection, but she was with the Fresh Prince. You know, so it was like I never could, like, even we were in a room together a couple times, I couldn't speak to him, you know, and you know, he wasn't going to speak to me if I wasn't going to speak to him.
Really?
But
He also wrote in his memoir, I hated that I wasn't what he was in the world, and I suffered a raging jealousy. I wanted Jada to look at me like that. Many people consider Jada to be toxic, ungrateful, and unappreciative of Will Smith, who is perceived to be a great man, father, and husband. Some people say Will is a pathetic coward who constantly lets his partner publicly embarrass him. Will knew what he was getting into. He knew all about Tupac. He knew Jada didn't want marriage, yet he still pursued it. And she rode for him for more than a decade. Now today, I guess they're separated. I think. They've made it very clear that they are never going to file for divorce, but that doesn't mean that they're still together. Their newfound, confusing life partnership is, well, I don't even think they know what it is. One thing that is very apparent about these two is they use this relationship to prophesize themselves. Them opening up about their marriage is somehow seen as more brave and more complicated than any of us since they are rich and famous, which to some degree is true, since millions and millions of people indulge in their marriage. But all this does is, 1, make them more money, and 2, fill their egos to the brim thinking that they have some divine purpose to open up on behalf of all of the broken relationships and marriages in the world. Ironically, I think most of the people who made it all the way to this point in the video agree that they do not, under any circumstance, want the type of relationship that Jada and Will have.
So that was it. And shout out again to Patrick CC. That link will be down in the description. I just thought it was a really good insight into this story. The longer video, his video, he has a lot more stories in there. I did cut out a lot of the stories and such like that. But I think it's very insightful, and I hope you get something out of it. And at the end of the day, I think we can take from here that we should be praying for Will and Jada. We should be praying for their kids. We should also be praying for the marriages around us, at our families, our church, our communities, our neighbors, and such like that. Because marriage is tough. Marriage is hard. It's a rewarding job, but it's a tough job. And I think everybody who is married and has been married and stuck in there for a long time or a short time can attest to that. So thank you so much. This is a one and done. My name is Jason, Dear Will Christian. This video is going hot in a moment. So thank you so much for watching. Let me know down in the comments below what you thought about this video. If you like these type of videos where I'm just giving commentary on various topics. I'd love to hear what you think about that. And of course, let me know down in the comments, and I'll see you then. Until next time, everybody, grace and peace. We're out.